Every one of you watching this screen, look out.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
What did I tell you about cartoons?
They've got a lot of brains, and they've got a lot of chutzpah.
Tell me how comic books make you feel, Dave.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
This is Frantz Kantor. I'm here sweating with Jim Bridges, and I'm the sweaty president of the Sweaty Australian Cartoon Museum, downtown Docklands, Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And we're interested in teaching people how to draw and heading them in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And today we're doing Draw with Jazza, who is a mega star on the net.
On the net.
On the net. Oh.
The fishing net.
Okay, all right.
The YouTube channel.
That's right.
So he's a YouTuber, and his channel started out with the name Draw with Jazza. It's now just Jazza. But he talks about the process, his process. Now, every artist is an individual, and they have an individual approach to drawing. Teaching somebody how to draw is a problem in itself because most artists are in the process of intensive learning. So it's a long, lifelong approach to improving your craft. They call it, inverted commas, the craft.
10,000 hours.
And, it's like becoming a brain surgeon. So it's quite a lot of investigative journalism, getting under the skin of characters, so being able to tell stories visually. And Jazza has done that, and he comes from a background of short animated films on Newgrounds, and working principally in Flash. Now Flash, which is now of course Adobe Animate, that has an incredible effect on artists, as has Adobe Photoshop, because these are digital tools, and what happens with a digital tool is they're basically a whole art shop in an app, and it kind of gives artists a really great arsenal of tools.
Good word, arsenal.
Yeah, so, and Jazza's weapons of choice are, drawing digitally, obviously, and animation. So a lot of his drawing comes from the applied approach to the drawing. So it's not drawing for artwork per se, or even though he does do that, that's definitely it, or fan art or anything like that, which he does do, but it's also a very applied approach. So you can see the sort of intensity. This is I love this character that represents Josiah. Josiah Brooks is his full name, Jazza, and we're going to review this, Draw with Jazza, creating characters. Now this is, as I said, there are a lot of art books out there on creating characters and drawing. This is a really good book with a very good approach, I feel, because it kind of covers a few different areas of drawing, which is learning the basics of drawing, which obviously you've got to put in the hard yards, the 10,000 hours, as you said, in order to get better, because you get better by drawing.
Practice.
But it also has a canny applied approach, which we'll investigate as we get into the book. So here we talk about overview of the design process, a few little notes. Now, one thing I do appreciate in books is I don't like reading. I hate reading. So a picture is
that a
worth...
personal thing, or is that just an artistic thing?
I don't know, but as time has gone on, I read less and less and less, and I don't have the time to read. So thankfully, there's very little in terms of words. Comparatively, if you compare this, say, to the Loomis book, which came out in the 40s and 50s, that's a hell of a lot of reading. And I would tell you right now, because of the era that it existed in, do not read the Loomis book. We won't talk any more about that, but do not read it. Look at the pictures, do not read it. But with Jazza's book, you can read it. And and it's very brief, which is fantastic.
Giving people out there permission to read it.
Yeah, you can read it, but don't look at the pictures, which are better. He's a very inventive artist. The thing about Jazza is that he kind of he has a style, you would say, in terms of from his background in animation, obviously. So it has a sort of linear and color, flat color. Approach to most of the illustrations.
That one, experiment. Very important.
I like this one, slow.
Oh, okay.
I'm constantly telling my students to slow down. Slow down.
Yeah, but that's the best one.
Yeah, nice and slow. Take it nice and slow. There we go, time. How much time do you have? So these are little notes from an artist, okay? Now every artist has a slightly different approach to the drawing process, and Jazza is very particular to him and the way that these are his thoughts, okay? So everybody is going to have a different take, slightly different takes on the approach to their process, the drawing process. So just talking about designing characters for yourself as opposed to designing for somebody else. So there's a different kind of dynamic involved. There's something to sort of consider before you start a project. This is going to develop into a project. This is what this book is for. So, and when you develop your ideas into a project, there's a process involved. Okay, so we start with a character. Everybody, this is a character-driven drawing book, learning to draw a book, or learning to create characters. You start with the identikit approach to the character. Like the world, the what do you call it? The hero's journey, or the psychology, or the makeup, physical, the emotional makeup, the physical makeup of the character. So you don't know who the character is at the moment; it's a blank. So you're attaching all of these things to the character, emotions and likes and hates and motives and physical traits, etc.
That's interesting.
You're building a world,
and I don't think I've ever seen that in another book where they have the psychology and then you have to attach them to the empty.
Well, usually it's a given, because when you see a character created, characters tend to inhabit worlds, and they kind of bring attachments with the design process. So when you see a fully fleshed out character, they kind of tell you a little bit about them, the story behind them. Yes. So they tell stories.
If they're any good.
Yeah. So you're just being aware of what this process is, which is good. So far, so good. This is great. This is all to do with world building, which is the context that the character lives in.
Miyazaki.
Yeah. Well, Miyazaki is obviously he's a master world builder, and even better than Disney, I would say, and has the ability to create characters that tell fully fleshed out narratives. So this is a quick overview of styles. So it's a way of sort of projecting your imagination into the future, so that you can see where you're taking, what is the end result, the end look of your character. So we've got super simple, stylish cartoons.
There is there.
Yeah, there is there. Well, okay, well.
There is there.
These are different versions of Jazza. Yeah, even 3D animation. Okay, so again, it's like edgy cartoons, cutting-edge comics, anime and manga, and semi-realistic comics. So this is just it's an overview. There are many directions artists can take characters. Obviously, comics are one, right? Graphic novels are one, and
games.
Animation and games. Yeah. So visual narratives can take you into many different end results. Finding inspiration. It's important, I think, to sort of get a grounding on, this sort of well of knowledge or well of this inspirational spring. It's hard to sort of quantify, what it is or how big it is or where it comes from. You get ideas anywhere, in the shower, going for a walk,
Well, as you were saying to me once, there's no such thing as writer's block for cartoonists.
No.
Because you just put the pen down and the pen goes for a bit of a walk and you're not even sure what you're drawing, then something appears.
Exactly, yeah. There's this Mr. Squiggle effect.
Yeah.
Because we make reason out of chaos.
Yeah.
We create from randomness.
Yeah.
And the act of creation, you can see this is a perfect example. This is a key illustration of the design process. So there's a lot of inspiration which is created from repetition or from the exploring. So you don't know what to draw, start drawing. This is the basic idea.
Just start
if
drawing.
you don't know what to draw, and then something will happen in the drawing process.
Yeah.
So when I draw, usually I don't have a lot of stuff going on in my head. It sort of happens on the paper. So that's common to a lot of people. Stage 2. These are different stages of the process of creating characters. Design of the characters. I love this. The French
Design.
quarter style with the scarf and the what's this called? The tam o'shanter or
Tam o'shanter.
I don't know what
It's a
they call
beret.
it. Beret. There you go.
Tam o'shanter. Start simple.
Start simple. So simplicity is key in creating characters, because you have to basically create something that's three-dimensional, right? So even though the Simpsons are a two-dimensional cartoon, for example, they have to be drawn in a way that they represent three dimensions. Otherwise, they don't make sense. And they're very difficult to continue, especially in an animated process. They're very difficult to continue drawing. So there's something about constructing and then deconstructing the body, which is basically reducing it down to simple elements. Simple elements are faster and easier to draw, and then of course you extrapolate that. You build details into the simple designs, right? But having the ability to draw something simple, this is kind of based on the Loomis head construction method that I mentioned to you before in another video. It's a way of understanding where the component parts are of the head, the eyes and the nose and the mouth, and treating them with respect to perspective. Not so much proportion, but perspective. So in being able to draw something that seems like it will exist in a three-dimensional context. Like the Simpsons are drawn from a three-quarter view. Usually they're animated from a three-quarter view because it makes sense to us. So different ideas on, a masculine face versus a feminine face. What are the different sort of tropes, the different sort of symbolic representations in terms of cartoons and characters are concerned. I love this. The way that he peppers the illustrations with these very little personal illustrations of flowers, illustrations of his character and different versions of him is a great approach. It kind of
a lot of artists,
grounds it and makes it very approachable.
A lot of artists make the girls' women's eyes bigger than men's, and it gives them not exactly manga effect, but I mean it makes them look prettier.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the pupils. If the pupils are large, they just look more attractive.
Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of stereotypical. Again, we're going into the stereotypes of proportions and construction. So why it is even important to look at stereotypes is that stereotypes, like a blank, like a mannequin, right? There's a point of starting a character, and how you end the character is in terms of you treat it in terms of the details that you layer over the basic construction. So in a stereotypical male face, for example, you have a very simple, basic structural approach, which then you can get a blank mannequin. But from that blank mannequin, you've now got the proportions and the perspective, so you're able to then add, extra details and things like that to make it very special and unique, So again, drawing the basics. See how everything lines up. You'll be surprised how few students start out with this idea. Line up the elements so that you can turn the character, the simple face. If you can turn a simple face in space, space on paper, right? Front on, side on, 3/4 view. If you can do that, then you've achieved a great deal. Same with the body, basic body construction. It's all to do with how things move, linkages, the amount of mass, which is representative of, the component parts of the body, right? They're very distinctive. They have very distinctive parts. You need shoulders, you need the torso, the thorax, you need the hips. You've got to have all of these elements that make sense when you're creating a three-dimensional view of the body, or being able to turn the drawing of the body in space, and especially when you start drawing action poses, because you don't want to suddenly come upon the problems of anatomy not looking good and not knowing enough about the basics to be able to correct those mistakes. So stereotypical male body, these are sort of heroic proportions based on comic books, for example, more a semi-realistic approach to drawing the figure. But this approach, lining things up, drawing, having mass that refers back to anatomy, right? This is very important, and this, of course, goes through any different character, any character at all. Could be very, very highly stylized, like Samurai Jack, or very anime, like Akira.
Well, it's the same in technical drawing. You have to have these lines to keep the proportions the same.
Well, this is to
in
help
any context.
Yeah, this is to help you line things up so that they make sense. When you get a chance to be able to turn the character on paper in space, so you do side on, front on, and 3/4 view, you get more information of the character. It's incredibly important.
That's nice.
Well, this is actually, I haven't seen this for quite a while, but this sort of V-taper is it's a mental note that you keep in your head when you're drawing the figure, because it refers to the tapering from the shoulders down to the waist. Even though you may have like a wider waist, it doesn't matter. But basically, the understructure of the muscles tend to converge down towards the waist. So it keeps everything, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. Drawing the female body, again, the same approach, sort of, understanding this is a blank, right? So you get to draw the figure, a very simplistic approach to drawing the figure, very stylized in many ways, but that gives you the ability to draw the character. The more experience you have with that, gives you the ability to draw the character then in action. Some notes on anatomy, arching the back.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from drawing breasts and stuff like that,
curves.
and talking about the breasts, as a lot of books do.
Yeah. So just little notes along the way, which is helpful because, you know, in the process, you may miss out on what is the relevance of certain aspects of the drawing process. So he's put in those as well, those little notes, which is good. Construction lines, practice drawing poses. So constant drawing, this is very, very good. Actually, this goes to the basics of sketching, which he approaches again in a sec. We'll have a look at that further on down.
Has Jazza done any life drawing on his show?
I don't believe he's done life drawing.
Okay.
I might have missed that episode. So variety is very important. So once you understand the basics and you're using a stereotypical approach to drawing the figure, right? Then you start to explore variety of shapes, and this is why you've got this. So not only the body types, but also the body language. So the poses, which are reflective of the character types as well. Remember that this is a character book, so you need to be able to use visual language that describes a character, that can tell a story. Traits, character types and traits. Again, you know, this is a very important thing to think about with the characters. Presumably you're working towards a brief or some end result, but thinking about the character types in terms of their youth or little details, and finally, you know, like polishing your character, sort of tell stories in a very subtle form. That makes sense. So the more you draw with this in mind, of course, the stronger the character is. It becomes more sort of realistic or relevant in your imagination. A character is supposed to tell a story. So the more elements you put in, like the phone and the emery board or whatever, you know, doing now the body language, the expression, all of these things, the more you put into that character, the more story your character tells without doing any dialogue. Some notes on, posing, on aging. This is interesting. I've not thought about this. Obviously there's a lot more involved in drawing wrinkles
the
and things like that.
And the wrinkles, yeah.
Yeah, but this is a great sort of start in thinking about where you're taking. You've got the basic structure, the mannequin. Now you're going into developing variations and adding other details such as thin and fat, overweight, chubby, obese, adding weight. That also. What else did you say here? Fat sits on the body like padding between the core of the body. This is very interesting. There's a tendency to draw obese characters with too much emphasis on the contour, with the outer shape of the body.
Just circles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like clothing, it has to hang on a basic structure. That's why you see this underneath. So when you draw somebody that is obese or has a lot of weight, right, which changes their overall outer shape, the outer shape is posed by thinking of the basic structure underneath. So the skeletal structure, the muscle structure underneath, which is very, very important.
It'll look more real, won't it?
Yeah, you won't be. It's easier to understand, and then sort of add weight. Obviously to the character, and then when you're doing thinner characters, obviously you're taking weight away from them, but you still have to consider the underlying structure. That's why he's done here. He's cleverly put in.
You don't
the
normally
bones.
see a page like that in a drawing book, do you?
No, well, I don't. No, but I think this is more. A lot of this is to do with his approach to the variety of characters, which is interesting. It's an interesting approach. As I said, a lot of drawing books have a particular approach to designing characters.
Well, here we are again, but this is not this is building up.
Well, again, the same thing. Body mass, muscular bodies have the same thing as obese bodies. There you have the universal mannequin or the universal man underneath. So as long as you can draw the simplistic structure underneath, you can then extrapolate and add these details on top. These are little notes on characters, different character types, repulsive characters versus cute characters. So it's, obviously beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This is interesting. I've not seen that before.
He's got the same sort of face, but then he emphasises certain things like, see the eyes are the same. See?
Yeah.
The eyes are the same.
Well, moving the scale between elements and things gives you variety.
And he gives you
it gives you permission to play with the proportions.
Yeah.
So this is playing with proportions.
Yeah.
So once you get the basic structure, now you can play with proportions, which gives you access to different meaning. There's a different level of meaning to these characters, right, as opposed to these characters. These are different sort of variations, elements to play with that you may not have thought about. I never would have thought about this, the space between the nose and the mouth.
Oh, the Planet of the Apes effect.
Yeah, Dr. Zaius.
Ah, Dr. Zaius. You're giving away your age. Hang on, he was only...
Brainstorm
he was in the
sketching.
first film.
So brainstorm sketching. What is a design brief? So it's looking at a design brief now. So we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the design process. Here you have Jazza standing with 31 flavors. Do you go straight to vanilla without seeing if you prefer caramel swirl or sprinkles? In other words, what it is developing something, variations on themes and playing what if, exploring other ways of designing the character. So playing with it,
putting sprinkles on your character.
Well, it's finding the character. So you can't find the character in your head. You've got to find the character on paper.
That's right.
You can see the basic construction. But I would love him to show you more of this, the actual drawing process here, because it starts out. This is why Loomis is quite important, because everything starts with this sphere, and then all of the features are built with that first basic underlying form.
A cycle.
Yeah. Well, it's a globe. So it's a sphere,
a cycle
with a face.
A cycle.
Yeah.
Well, it's a shape.
So brainstorm sketching
is a shaved circle. It's a shaved sphere.
Yeah, it's working out different possibilities of character design, right? Which is what you have to do. You don't sort of settle on one thing straight away. Don't jump into the character. Work out in a tentative process of play. Play. It's very, very important.
Slow play.
Yes, take your time, but develop the character slowly and come up with different variations just for yourself. In a professional stance, you have to do this because the client needs to see this part of the design process in order to help with the choosing of the direction.
But also your sketching, when you just sit down watching TV or something and you start sketching, you have all these ideas to start to flow in that may be useful for a specific client.
You see these little... Exactly. You see these little sticky tape things here. These are the design briefs. So the design brief here is a small bakery wants a cartoon character of a female baker with a traditional hat. They want something sleek, professional and friendly. So there you have it. There's a design brief, which is a need for the character. That's the end result. That's the end usage of the character. And these are different ways of exploring variations on
I reckon you'd use that one.
Well, you've narrowed it actually to move forward. You narrow those designs into a smaller group, and then you move forward. And that's common with all design briefs. So first of all, you spitball or you brainstorm, whatever you want to call it, right? It's working out all these different approaches and different ideas. You're playing with things, playing with poses. Remember, poses indicate the character's acting. So even though this is not animation, you're still acting with a pencil. You're creating some performance. Practice, always keep practicing, always keep drawing. Never settle for something yet.
He's dragging.
This is taking the rough idea, the pencil sketch, the thumbnail, where he's taking it. Let's get cleaned up. So from the design process goes from the thumbnail process or the brainstorming process to the cleanup, which is more refined, and we're getting into that now. This is further development of the character, refining the character to an end result. Yeah, so it's a lot of this, a lot of thought process on approach, and a lot of that's to do with the final effect that you want to achieve. So you're narrowing the design process, the design brief, all of these different variations or possibilities. You create the final idea, the final design. And that's common in all of these different briefs, these small briefs, right? Then you go into the refinement process. Test and design is working out how the character will act, how the character, in a comic or a game or an animation. You want to see the character with action poses so that you can see how they move in space.
Very Kirby-ish.
Yeah. Color, there's the Jazza channeling Bob Ross. Color is a very interesting. Yeah. Color is a very interesting process of the design process of the character design process. So here, Jazza is talking about the communicating with colors, and these are just sort of ideas.
Well, it's a color wheel, but it's your emotional color wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, purple, positive, noble, wealthy, spiritual, negative, mysterious, moody, volatile. So these are color, I guess, indicators. They're sort of ways of exploring colors that have some sort of a emotional tie.
Unknowability.
Thinking of your character in a setting, how they work in the real world, right? In context, that could mean props, and it could also, mean the background. So that's very important to think about that. What do you wear today? This is it's interesting. That's perfect, isn't it? That's a great illustration to illustrate this process, this part of the process of designing the character.
But
so you've got the character, what's he going to wear, and what's the scene he's going to be in.
As you've said in the past, you have to be the actor. The artist is the actor. He has to get into the role of who he's drawing.
Yeah.
As well. So that is a very,
Well, that's him telling and illustrating this part of the process.
I know, but it's also getting back to the fact that while you're drawing these things, even at a later stage, you've got to act it out in your own body and your imagination, because that's where the better product comes from.
So these are different takes on settings. It could be medieval or science fiction. So you think about the setting and work appropriately towards that. So all of the props, all of the backgrounds and things are developed in context with the character. Westerns, love this. I love that.
You very rarely get
thinking about and exploring props, research.
You very rarely get this sort of thing in a drawing book about westerns. As you said, this sort of also is part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah. Dystopian, utopian. It's sort of like Superman's planet, I guess.
Before it went
Steampunk.
wrong.
So the different directions, different world building directions that you can go to. This is zombie. Other possible settings: techno fantasy, techno horror, ancient Greek, Roman, Aztec, Egyptian.
She was in Hercules.
Hercules. Yeah. Character archetypes. 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 Thank you.
It's a psychology word.
Yes.
It's a Jungian word, actually.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, so, which box will we put him in?
Okay, is that what that means? Hero and heroine. Again, getting back to the hero's journey, right? So you create something that archetypes are like what he was drawing before with the characters that are more
there's villains.
General.
Yeah, there's villains and there's heroes and there's
details.
There's old blokes who know stuff,
Right.
And there's people who have power or who are a little bit cruel.
So the sidekick, the mentor. This is like Star Wars. This is the hero's journey. It's working out characters that have
Han Solo with a tie.
An archetype is sort of a characters that have an understandable narrative. So the narrative of Star Wars is understandable. So when and in many ways it's predictable, and also is satisfying. So even though it's predictable, it is fairly satisfying because archetypes or archetypes, whatever.
Archetypes.
There you go. They do fulfill our sort of basic understanding of story.
The villain, the henchman.
Yeah. So these represent challenges to the hero, right? A hero is only as good as the anti-hero. So this is the anti-hero. No, the hero is only as good as the villain. Yes. So Batman is only Batman because of Joker.
That's true.
Sex appeal, the caretaker.
You're not interested in
the
sex
animal
appeal,
companion.
obviously. Went over that page pretty quick.
Well, I don't understand it really. Is that part of the story? Creating characters that are sexy, I guess.
Well, physical fitness is nearly always a key attribute.
Yeah.
With trim and toned bodies.
Yeah. The animal companion, the companion animal.
The caretaker.
The caretaker. So stereotypes. So where do you use stereotypes in the different story situations? Character roles, cliches, yes. So visual cues. A cliche is pretty good. Most cartoons and games employ some level of cliches, and do subtle twists on those.
Well, you recognise who they are straight away.
Yeah,
because they're cliches. But then you find out.
But the details.
There is a twist there. Or
Yeah,
they're not. Yeah.
So the delivery. Look at the.
Dun, dun, dun.
You got one out of all of that.
Yeah.
So discover, design,
that's
develop,
very true.
deliver.
One drawing out of all that. Yeah.
So this is the process, right? So you basically work out, you spitball ideas, then you sort of fine tune it in the design process. You develop it even further, creating your stereotypes, your cartoon, your cliches or whatever, and then you deliver. Let's look at what delivery means. So refining the concept art. These are obviously in animation. You would get these sort of character profiles with a short story of the character, like a synopsis, and that reflected obviously in the drawing. So the drawing of the character has to tell a certain level of narrative, a part of the story, very much. In the fact of their pose, their expression, and any accoutrement, any props, or whatever that they have to be able to tell you exactly, what is this show about, or what is this comic about, or this game. Going back into the head turnarounds again. I don't know why this is at the end of the process. I guess, I know why this is here. All right, so being able to draw the character three-dimensionally creates this end process as well, because not only thinking and drawing and lining the characters up, but you have to create this, I think, animator's Bible, where the character is drawn from different angles.
And the back of the head.
Yeah. You don't really see so much of this sort of thing in comics, but definitely in games and animation, you would definitely need to know what the back of the character's head looks like. So in building the head turnaround for the character Bible, the animation Bible, is very important. So to be able to, inform other animators on how to draw the figure, or even yourself, keeping your character on model. Very important to keep the character on model, whether it be comics or animation or games. There's a little note here of keeping expressions and body poses neutral. I think this is important to consider. These turnarounds are not action poses. So this is not where the action poses are. This is the physical turning process of the two-dimensional drawing, so that it has a three-dimensional
but by drawing it gives you
context.
fuller understanding of what to do when you do action.
Yeah. So again, as we explored in the beginning of the book, right, simple construction and blocking, and then refinement of details, and then the final presentation, where you can see it fully fleshed out and inked. But you can see the process is stepped correctly. This is how you approach characters in order to be able to sustain their their forms. And expression sheets are very important. Employ elements of squash and stretch and perspective and everything into the characters, creating a sort of an acting performance sheet, if you will, of the characters that makes sense. Now, all of the expressions should refer to the character. So if you were to draw your face making these grimaces and these expressions, you've got to apply it to the character that you're drawing, right? So don't have sort of like cookie cut approach to drawing expressions. You can see that you have different characters, different face types, and different solutions. I love this expression here. So these are great. These two probably have seen before in some of the other characters' variations, but these are unique to this character. So that's perfect. This is a great example. Love that. Pose sheet. Again, these, going through the action process of what does the character look like when it's in action. And there's different variations. Dale, which is sort of like a elf, Zelda type character, and Cat. So you can sort of see, the same process applied to different characters for different, slightly different variations. So creating variants on this is great actually, using Jazza as the base. So there's a rapper or punk version of Jazza. There's a knight version, and there's a politician, businessman version. There's a Crocodile Dundee version. There's a clown version. So it's important to sort of allow yourself the ability to create variants based on your knowledge, solid drawing knowledge of your characters. And then taking, exploring other design briefs, right? So, this is a good example here. You got the different, the character in different, I think it's different forms. So the super cleaner, the cleaner, and the water form. So it's the same character in different super.
A cleaner would never hold a mop like that. Obviously, Jazza hasn't been a cleaner.
Yeah, but that's Toxic Avenger. So
I know. He'd turn it upside down, he'd lean on the top. Real cleaner would.
Yeah, but that's Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
So you need that sort of that trope. That's great, isn't it? And then you have pulling it all together. So the instructor. Design process, review, discover, design, develop, deliver. That's good. Stages. People respond really, really well to stages. And again, I appreciate, thank you so much for not writing so many words. Just sort of keep it very brief. It's fantastic. Another brief here, a version of taking a brief and going through the design process itself, right? So here he is talking about designing this character, Quaid, and some thoughts on the character, why he's chosen certain faces and expressions, uniform styles, etc. So these are notes on the reason for this, the thought process behind this design, right? So sharing with you that part of that intimate part of the working knowledge of this process. These are great. I love these poses. They're very dynamic. So to give you an expression, like a physical ability of Quaid, right? So this is Quaid landing. This, sitting, being cocky, standing, talking to the video screen or whatever. So you get different kind of contextual poses that relate to a story, right? So they kind of intimate a story possibility. And this is the final design process, the final inking, and then going into the refined concept itself, into the final ink and color.
Is that a show?
And again, another one now, different style. Cindy the Fitness Lover. This is sort of more of a child proportions. Again, with the Loomis idea of the sphere, the globe, the three-dimensional structure underneath. Irrespective of how simple the character is, you need to have structure. Nice. This is lovely, yeah. Nice, yeah. That's sort of like a Powerpuff style. Again, this is a nice sort of landing pose. Going back to a variation on that. It's kind of like, referring to, I think, a superhero landing. It's cool. This is nice. The little pockets in the pants. Some more action poses, delivering the character, and then the final outcome.
The way he's put these together on the page too, is very good because it's showing.
This is
it's like showing that to the client.
Yeah,
showing that
in
to
the design
client,
process, you refine it.
Showing that to the client would think, oh yes, because she can do all these things.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's part of the general, expressions and expression sheets, head turnarounds, action poses are all part of the design process. So that's how you develop characters, and you present the characters in the end result to the client, to the stakeholders. This is another brief. Again, this is a bit more intricate now. You're getting into a lot more details, and then in here with monsters.
Aliens.
Yeah. So this, again, with world building, you have to sort of develop a reason why they've got bandages or straps or whatever. So everything you put in there, a buckle or something, everything has to have some sort of contextual sense to the story. If they've got horns or something, you make them practical. These are practical, they fold back into the hair.
Although the body was to be covered tattoos, both the client and I agree that the animal-style legs were too foreign and not attractive enough. So he covered them up.
Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. These are great. Love these.
Nice
the tail teller design. This is another design process. These are good. I love this one.
That's Max von Sydow, that one. Oh, that's good too.
So developing the character in terms of pose, it's just sort of spitballing ideas. Usually, if these props, the guy's carrying a stick, he's got books, he's got a blanket or something, or backpack, or things that he's carrying. He's either surrounded by pigeons, or some element maybe feeds the pigeons, I don't know. But these are all elements that tell a story. And designing the character so completely makes the character live. So it gives more believability to the characters. And obviously, clients love that because it tells gives you a more complete picture. This is a very beautiful character in situ. Fantastic. This looks like more than a game. This looks like a animated story. I could see this on TV. It's great. Final vector art. Yeah. I don't know if he explained vector art before. Vector is sort of like resolution independent, like Flash. Yeah, so the idea... Why has he got striped arms?
Because someone's stealing his idea.
Oh, is he? Oh, is that what this is? Yeah. Oh, of course, copyright.
Someone's stealing his idea. And there's
always
someone who's going to steal your idea.
So copyright, there's a little bit of a note on copyright. Yeah. Maybe that should be a bit bigger. Trademarking, always sign your work. Always tell my students to sign their work. Intellectual property, IP. There's a sort of... This can be explained a little bit bigger and better, I believe. But you should always look up... IP is a very dangerous area to guess at, because it's like a legal minefield in many ways. Yeah. So that's something to consider.
Familiarize yourself with.
Yeah,
Jack
generally
Kirby and all
your
those
artwork
stories.
is protected.
Yeah.
With copyright.
Yeah. Although international, to protect yourself, it costs a lot of money, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So here we have the index. This is Jazza. Here he is, about the author. That's I think I don't know. I think that might be his new background for his show. So this is good. When was this? What year? This is 2000. What year it is? There he is. There. Look at him.
Yeah. I think it came out last year.
You can go to his channel and get this merch.
I think it came out 2019.
Did it?
Well, I won't tell you in the front, I'll tell you in the back.
Oh, will it?
Oh, no. Yeah, it's gone straight into it. It's at the back. It's a new idea. They put all that stuff at the back now.
Oh, right. 2016.
So, there we are. Yeah.
There you go. Acknowledgements.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Some more... a thank you to the people that helped put the book together. What's he got here? Metric conversion chart. Centimetre, inches. That's interesting.
Well, the book...
I hate maths. Why did you put maths in the book?
But the book was published in America, and they have a different... They don't have the metric system.
Yeah, but... No. But he's got a chart here.
Yeah.
How to convert inches to centimetres, or centimetres to inches, feet to centimetres, yards to metres.
Well,
multiply.
You just stick that on the side of your drawing.
No, I don't.
No, on your drawing board.
I don't like that. I don't like maths. Maths in drawing, not a good idea.
Okay.
Draw with Jazza, creating characters. A fun and easy way. How did you find this book? Did it make sense to you?
Yeah.
Did it tell you a little bit about drawing a character process?
It had things in it that I've never seen in any other book before, which I liked.
Yeah.
But I think it seemed to be a bit of a crash course.
It is in many ways, yeah. There is that crash course in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then it gets into design briefs, which is the bread and butter of character design. And as long as you follow a certain process, which is outlined in this book, it's very clever.
His design is to get you from A to Z, and to sell it. And the finished product. not a lot of books go for the finished product. He's always got his mind. You can tell right through the book. He's got his mind on the finished product.
Yeah, well, the finished product after you do the design brief, obviously you need clients to do that. So that's another story, probably another book.
Yeah. But
all right, so there you go.
He's basing the book on his own. On his own experience.
This is Jazza's Draw with Jazza, Creating Characters, and it's a great start for thinking about a career in character design for games or animation.
And it should be published in Australia, and we don't have to wait 3 months to get it from America. Anyway, this is Frantz, Kantor and
Bridges
saying, we'll see you around like a record.
That's it. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the sour persimmons, cousin.